days they go so fast. Would love a retro future union. So far nothing has seemed to last. Forever vacation. I tell a lie like lazy B if it would put me on your screen. Stop the real world page. Change the channel if you want, the image remains all the same. If real life can't provide for me the things I see on my TV, I guess I'll have to settle for a premium fantasy. If real life just sends me to sleep, is there a slightly sweeter dream? In case I have to settle for a premium fantasy. Real life can't provide for me the things I see on my TV. I guess I'll have to settle for a premium fantasy. If real life has no mystery, can you bring me just a side of clarity? I don't wanna settle for a premium fantasy.
Your experience with dogs on the job. What was your worst job in regards to dogs in New Hampshire like?
Well, for work, I did window cleaning in New Hampshire, so that just involved me going in, cleaning the inside and outsides of houses, mostly. Some commercial properties, but for the most part, it was residential. But for New Hampshire, the worst job with dogs was also the worst job I had in general. When my boss did estimates, he didn't always need to be inside the house. He would just do a walk around the house, get a count for how many windows there were. And when we got there, you open the door and you immediately just get hit with this wave of hot air, cigarette smoke, dog piss, dog shit, just like all sorts of things you don't want to be smelling. We started to kind of gagged initially, and the person living there didn't look like they could really take care of themselves. They weren't doing very well, and the dog they had was a small dog, but the thing looked malnourished, and it was pissing and shit in the house. So that job was, when we got done with the inside of it, we were very happy to be outside, and when we were from window to window, we would just open it up and stick our heads out just to get some fresh air.
Was the upstairs the same as the downstairs in terms of dog shit?
I think it was mostly downstairs, I want to say.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I forgot most of the details there of that house.
Probably the fumes from all the dog jenkum that's like wiping your memory from the place.
Probably. The loss of brain cells was not worth the price.
Did you guys ever go back there?
No, we did not.
What about Florida? What was your worst job in Florida like?
Oh, right, Florida. Let's see. So when I was in Florida, same thing, window cleaning. I went to this one job that was, let's see, a fairly big house, 2-story house, which was really nice inside. But the other building we did, which was kind of like a guest house, a smaller guest house in the back of the house, that was where the son and his wife lived. And I think they had pit bulls, but this yard was just littered in dog shit, even just like close to the door and everything. Clearly did not care. I guess it was the inside of the house was better, I suppose, because there wasn't shit in the house. It still didn't smell that great, but it was at least better than the outside. Like the outside, there's so much shit, it hurts breathing around here. So that was a pretty bad one.
disgusting. Did you ever go back to that job?
No. I wasn't in Florida long enough to do repeat jobs.
What was your worst job in Washington like?
I guess unfortunately I have multiple worse jobs. So again, it's window cleaning on top of other things, gutter cleaning, pressure washing, stuff like that now. When we do commercial jobs or residential jobs, we can do lots of apartment complexes, so multiple buildings. Just one I was at the other day had around 30 buildings. And this is a job, luckily when you're doing gutter cleaning, you're at least not working on the ground. You're on the roof, so you're kind of avoiding the ground because with Washington, if you have an apartment complex, you're most likely just going to run into dog shit everywhere. The one at this job, it wasn't as bad as I think it was before, but it's still annoying just walking around and being constantly concerned about like where you're stepping. And there's also just since it's late fall, a bunch of leaves on the ground, so it's also stuff gets obscured or stuff just blends in. And let's see, it's pretty much any time I do work at an apartment complex, it's kind of the worst. Some I guess are worse than others. Probably the worst one was a job that had to do pressure washing. So when doing that, you have to go around. You have to work on the ground and just go around the building, pressure washing the siding. But this place was just caked with or even like just dead grass everywhere. Like, oh, I don't want to step on any of this.
Yeah.
So dead grass is not uncommon. In fact, it's quite common on a lot of job sites I go on.
Did you ever have to do apartment complexes in New Hampshire or Florida like you do with your job in Seattle?
A couple, yes, but the situation at these apartments were not as bad. I don't remember seeing as many dogs in New Hampshire as I do now in Washington.
Would you say that the dog nuttery in Washington state is worse than the other states you live in? Yeah.
As far as just by sheer number, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to find any patch of grass that isn't either burnt into yellow because of the dog piss or just coated in dog shit. Like, it's impossible to walk through a field of grass.
Yeah, and that's something, yeah, with my work as well, it's just like I don't like walking on grass. And that's unfortunate because it's like, I like grass.
Yeah.
But just with the number of dogs people have, or even if, whether it's the person's own dog or someone else. I mean, if the person doesn't have a dog, then usually their lawn is fine. But with apartment complexes, like, no one cares. Like, or there's no infrastructure in place for the management to keep track, which is weird because I see they've installed a bunch of new cameras around, so maybe they are, but I saw still plenty of dog shit lying around. So.
But if someone was tossing around and dispersing a bunch of xylitol sausages, I bet you they would then reference the security cameras.
Then they get upset.
It's like nobody cares about what dog owners do, or they're embarrassed to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about needing to pick up dog shit, but it's pretty consistent. It's impossible to escape it because we walk outside, dog shit paves every single sidewalk in Seattle or anywhere in Washington state, honestly. But where we lived, when we lived more in rural Washington, we didn't really have too many problems with that. But moving to a major city, everything changed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cities have a much, like, on top of the dog shit, you also have to deal with human shit. But you I feel like it's pretty easy to tell human shit from dog shit, because at least with people, for the most part, at least they go behind something, but with a dog, it's like they kind of just open, defecate, and don't care.
And even if owners do pick it up, trace amounts of it still lay on the floor, so it's almost like they need to use something so the dog's shit never touches the ground in any way. But you know, how can we expect every dog owner to be responsible? Like, what was your experience growing up with dogs?
Most of the early experiences I had were movies. So I watched All Dogs Go to Heaven a lot. We watched that movie a couple years ago for the first time in forever, and I don't know if it holds up. Still kind of bizarre and mature movie, but I don't know if that really affected how I perceived dogs. There was that classic one, I think it's Homeward Bound, that's like with the golden retriever, the pit bull, and the Siamese. Actually, even as a kid, when I saw that intro, I was like, out of the three of them, it's like, I like the pit bull the least. But where I grew up in New Hampshire, like, we were surrounded by farms, and one of the people next to us, they bred dogs. My neighbor, who is a relative of the farm owner, we would go over to their barn, and sometimes they'd have new puppies and they come out. But when I did that, I remember my first interaction with them. They let them out, just to, puppies. It's like, oh, as a kid, it's the funnest thing ever. But they immediately just slobbered and destroyed my new shoes I got. So it's like, oh. But I didn't think much of it. But the biggest memory I have of dogs just during that time was just dog fights taking place in my backyard.
Wow.
So,
did you ever call the police? Because I'm pretty sure dog fighting has been illegal for a while now.
No people were present. The dogs did this.
Oh, okay.
Of their own volition.
Okay. I thought that it was, like the other owner.
No, the dogs would just get out on both sides, and because we were in the middle, they would just fight in our backyard. My other neighbor, who had one dog, their dogs would see that dog, jump the fence or whatever there are, and just beat up this one dog in my yard.
Wow.
So they had a ringleader, I think. It was just the oldest dog, and it was like gray in one eye, so...
What kind of dog was it?
Just some sort of herding dog, but it was just black or mostly gray because it was old, but still looked mean. While these dog fights were happening, while I was just hanging out in the backyard, that dog looked at me, was like, and started approaching me.
Ooh.
Luckily, we had a tree house, so I just ran up my tree house, and I was a little scary.
Did that impact your view on dogs at all?
Unfortunately, I don't think so. Well, these are just some bad dogs.
Right.
They're not all like that. Still wasn't aware.
Was there any other time where you felt like your safety was threatened by the presence of dogs?
Let's see. Well, there was my other friend who lived down the street, and he had a dog, a guard dog. I'm not sure what kind it was, I don't remember. But it was not one that could be out when other people were present. And, I mean, it stopped burglars at one point, apparently. So, but what happened was I had to go get something for my friend, and he lives down this long dirt road leading to a farm and then a house, and I just wasn't thinking, so I just rode my bike down there, and then I saw their dog, like, in the front yard and was just lying down, and it looked at me, and I got off my bike. I'm like, oh shit. And so I see we're making eye contact, and I'm just slowly making my way towards the door. The dog's not moving, but I know that one wrong move and game over. But I made it to the door, and my friend was like, what the fuck are you doing? Though I don't think he could swear.
Right.
We're kids.
So it's like in some way you understood the danger that dog presented.
Oh yeah.
The neighbors that lived right across from my parents' house at the time, they had those two big Rottweilers. They would bark at cars that are driving down the road. They'd bark at kids who are riding their bike. I was not aware of the danger that it presented. You know, there are all those beware of dog signs, and I thought it's like, oh, they're just going to bark at them. But I didn't realize that these things have killed children before. They've killed adults. And when my grandmother was visiting, we would take walks, and my aunt as well. We would take walks around the neighborhood, and we had to carry sticks with us in case the dogs got loose. But in my child mind, I thought like, oh, you know, they'll bark at us and we'll just, you know, bat the sticks around. But my granny was actually pretty aware of the dangers that dogs had possessed. And to my understanding, I might be remembering this wrong, but one of her friends had her face like chomped off by a Rottweiler, like took a chunk out of her face. And in that moment, I thought like, why are these things legal? They're killing machines. But yeah, just same thing. I'm like, oh, well, they're probably not all that way. So how did you come about acquiring and owning a dog? What was your motivation?
Oh, let's see. So I was either 11 or 12 at the time. And why did I want one? I can't really remember the reasoning. It was just, I guess I wanted a pet and my parents were on board with that. Before that, I had a rabbit, and that went fairly well. So I think they thought could handle a dog, but they wanted a specific dog, a Yorkie, which are supposedly hyperallergenic, but really that doesn't.
They're non-shedding.
Yeah. So, and then when we went to a breeder, and when we got there, we saw the dog. We saw in this cage, we could see there's one dog that was really excited and happy and looking at us and just had its paws on the cage, barking and everything. Like, is that it? It's like, no, it's the one in the corner there. So same cage, but it was just sitting in the corner and shaking and quivering. Like, he's perfect. We want a dog that's afraid.
And they say that the most dangerous types of dogs out there are ones that have been afraid or beaten, but I think you can attest to the tomfoolery of that logic.
Yeah, when we got him, whenever he did something we didn't want to, we were fully fine with yelling and, like, obviously not bruising or beating him
not
up.
Abusing.
No, but it's just like adding negative consequence to when he does something.
Yes. And for that very reason, that is probably the only dog I have ever been somewhat okay with, because he wasn't invasive. Your parents didn't treat it like a human being, and they were pretty understanding that I didn't want it in our room. Did you ever need to beat it to get it to obey? Because usually the standard was to roll up a piece of newspaper and beat them that way. That way you're not making them bleed, you're not making them bruise. It's just like negative reinforcement. Stop doing this.
I think a lot of it was, we would just, at least for me, it's just whenever he did something, I just, it's such a small dog. It's just, I would just push him, within reason, just to startle it.
But you were never aggressive.
My intent was never to actually, like, bruise or hurt the dog. It was just to add negative reinforcement.
Yeah. To
when it did something wrong. And, yeah, I mean, it still misbehaved, at everything. But at the very least, it was accustomed to negative reinforcement, so it did not like it whenever we did that. And that kind of helped keep it in line.
It stops undesirable behavior.
Yeah.
And I've read so many countless articles that say, like, you should never yell or hit your dog. So if somebody heard our interview and they accused you of abusing your dog, what would you say to that?
It's an animal. I'm not sure what only positive reinforcement does. Obviously, I can see the idea of, like, why that might be, all peace and loving towards all living creatures, but it's like, animals are not people. It's like, you can do positive reinforcement with a person, and your results may vary. So it's like, why should the same apply to animals? I guess that was kind of the mentality of what we do. It's like, whenever he did something we didn't want him to do. Negative reinforced to establish he can't do what he wants.
Yes.
In the household, because most of the time it'd just be like biting or destroying something. So it's like setting it in place early on that he's not the one making decisions. And I think that that's probably what happens with positive reinforcement is it's not being negatively affected anyway, so it's not being told in some way that it's not the alpha dog.
Yeah, these households that raise pit bulls with love and they don't use negative reinforcement, they have perceived everything that's happening around them as I can do what I want and I'm never going to be punished by it. Some mutt experts even say, like, never use punishment for a dog because that'll make it scared and aggressive.
You want to be scared, and if it shows aggression, you respond with more negative reinforcement.
Yeah, I think it's so stupid how people say abused dogs are the most dangerous. If that was the case, then people working at dog slaughterhouses would be mauled instantly, but you notice they never use locks on any of their cages for the dogs because they know that they're going to die and they're such pathetic animals. They're not even going to help their fellow mutant if the door is open. I might have shown you this video from Korea of a dog slaughterhouse, much like a pig or cow slaughterhouse. And they open this gate, they bring the dog out, and then they hit it on the head, and there are other dogs in the cage. So instead of the dogs attacking these evil humans that are hurting their fellow mutant, what do? They go to the corner and cower. And then they close the gate. They don't need to lock it at all because dogs are so pathetic, and that's where the term die like a dog comes in. It's a very pathetic and undignified way to just accept death. So if that really was the case, if all dogs that are abused are the most dangerous, then the dogs in slaughterhouses would not be so well behaved.
Yeah, it's just assert yourself as the dominant one, not with food.
No.
Because it's a dog will only, like, oh, you're the one that holds all the food, therefore I must follow you for the food. But it's not instilling a sense of the person in charge of the food is not the dominant one. They just have the food.
Right. They're just the food dispenser.
Yes.
That's kind of dangerous that dogs view their owners as food dispensers. A food dispenser that they will allow to murder their children, essentially. All right, so I think you pretty much answered my question about how your family felt about the dog. Right.
As he got older, we were just more so like, when is he gonna go?
Yes.
Because he's getting kind of annoying. Or, well, he's blind and he keeps bumping into everything, so just feel a little sad. Actually, that reminds me, just a quick story. One time my mom let him out, and this was when he was old and blind, and she went to go work on something on the computer, and she got an email from the community saying, "Whose dog is this?" And she realized she forgot. She left him out there for hours, so she went to go, drove around the neighborhood where they said he was, and he was just hanging out on the porch with a little girl who was just petting him, but he was just like shaking and wasn't looking like uncomfortable because he's blinding or where he is.
And he didn't bite the girl?
Apparently not.
Okay. I'm trying to be a little more conscious of referring to animals as it, because when you use pronouns like he, she, it kind of confuses things a bit.
Yeah.
So, did you ever have to deal with dog barking when you were growing up?
I want to say no. In fact, if there was any barking, it was probably from us, in all honesty, because small dogs tend to be more yappy.
Yeah.
So.
Did you ever punish it for yapping?
It'd only probably be in specific circumstances, like inside the house.
Yeah, there are some people in the community that need to deal with dog barking every single day. It's like it doesn't stop. I feel sorry for those people, but at the same time, why don't you call the police or animal control? And everyone knows animal control is going to try to sway you and say that our priority is animal cruelty. But you can say, well, I think this dog is being abused. I think this dog is being mistreated because it's barking nonstop. And that will get them to come and take action. Do you remember when we were driving around once and we saw a homeless veteran that was panhandling, and they had a mutt, and the lady in front of us got out of her car to rub on the mutt? And
yes.
I was just thinking, I bet you if that guy didn't have a dog, she would not get out of her car to go hug the man. It's like, it's only with the mutts.
Yeah, and remembering that person had a puppy, so it was you can tell it's a puppy because it's like it still has that look about it, has that texture look about it where it just looks like fresh fur, young fur. So if you're panhandling, then if you have a dog, that significantly increases your chances, even especially if you have like a disfigured dog or a puppy.
But if you're a disfigured human that's panhandling, then no one will want to pay attention to you.
No one cares.
That's crazy. It's sickening how many people will see a homeless person with a dog and then just buy dog food. They don't realize when homeless people... I mean, I don't think that any homeless person should be having a dog if they can barely even take care of themselves, but they share half of their food with the dog, basically. But no, these people didn't care about the person. They only cared about the well-being of the dog. You go on Invisible People, the Facebook page. I don't go on Facebook, but the host of that channel has told several stories of people bringing their dogs or panhandling with their dogs, and people will come up, give them money, and say, use this for the dog.
The lives of dogs is more important than the lives of humans.
Yes. Dogs first.
Yeah. I guess they think that dogs, because they're a living creature, or they're living, that they deserve to be treated well for some reason better. Like, you never see anyone hold like a cat or their pet rat at it while panhandling. It's only dogs that garner this type of sympathy from people, but yet some people don't. Maybe people look at homeless people and be like, well, they're never gonna change, but the dog can choose this.
The dog has potential.
Yeah, the dog has potential. It could still go to college,
get that degree in physiotherapy. Yeah, seeing how within dog culture or dog worship culture, there's that consistent theme of misanthropy, of hating humanity and loving dogs.
Yeah, and that can certainly just be brought up by like all the social norms or expectations of things where people are taught that people are awful. But yet somehow dogs are beyond judgment. Social media, internet, and stuff like that, and just more pro-dog or pro-pet, but really it's an issue of pro-dog.
Right.
It breeds a lot of misanthropy in people.
Yeah, for sure. Like all those memes of saying dogs are better than people when it is people that facilitates their existence, not dogs.
With my job, I go into a lot of people's houses, so I see a lot of inside people's houses, and I don't see it super often, but I have seen a couple with very pro-dog, and like our dogs are our children or something like that, stuff like that, or just very like dogs welcomed, humans tolerated. It's just like, so I guess it doesn't help that people at these signs sell, so it's like someone out there is making a buck.
Yeah. I don't know why people would put signs like that in their homes, because it's not like the dog can read it and be like, oh, I'm glad that I take priority. I've seen news reports too of these stupid dog nuts. Maybe my language is too harsh. I'm sorry. Of these dog lovers or dog worshippers. News reports where the journalist is going around showing people footage of this guy who's beating his dog in an elevator because it pissed on the floor. and they're trying to garner sympathy, and there's this micro-penis wannabe thug that's like, oh, I can't believe he did that because, to me, dogs are better than people. And I would just say, why are you talking to me then? Why are you wearing clothing that humans have made for you? Why are you wearing shoes that humans have made for you? Why are you using a phone that humans have made for you?
You like the grocery store, right? Well, dogs don't run it.
Yeah, if you really think that dogs are better than human, then you should sell all of your possessions that human beings have made and live homeless on the streets like a stray dog.
Yeah, if only the dogs could all be transferred to an island, and anyone who thinks dogs are better than people can live on the island and just experience the joys. They can create their own utopia society and figure out imports and exports.
And how long would you give them before they're eaten alive?
Well, after the dogs siphon enough piss and shit, and they get bored of that, eventually and there's no food, they'll turn on the people. They'll get the small dogs, and then they'll go on to the humans.
Yes. Because people don't realize that when they stop utilizing the services that humans have provided for them, like dog food. So it's like they enter this island, they're not wearing clothes, they don't have anything on them, and they don't have dog food. So I have a feeling that within maybe 10 minutes, once the dogs realize that this person is not providing them with any food, they figure they may as well just eat the person then. I made a community post of that video of IHD that you found. You actually found this video. Dogs are deceptive and evil, never trust them. And it was shortly after we had just finished watching All Dogs Go to Heaven by Don Bluth. And I think you typed in dogs are evil and you found that video. I had never heard of this channel. I never heard of the channel I Hate Dogs, but you were the one who discovered him, and that was kind of a life-changing moment, becoming educated about the reality of dogs and how you cannot trust them alone with a defenseless baby that is incapable of provoking the dog. So hearing about those news reports of dogs killing babies, I'm thinking, that's it. I don't need any more reason to hate these things. So what was it like for you when you watched that video for the first time?
Let's see. I don't think I honestly paid too much attention to it, but it was definitely just for me. It probably just took a little more gradually over time. I would have come to that conclusion or just not like dogs just by the nature of my work. Like at some point, like for the most part, it's the sanitation problems I have an issue with, which is just because obviously the safety and dog attacks and things like that and maulings. It's like, yes, that's very important and something I want to avoid and hopefully help other people avoid that. But just as far as day-to-day interactions with dogs, it's more on the sanitary side, and just dealing with that, just job after job. It's not all the time, but it's most of the time, especially if it's an apartment complex. It's just like, you just build up this resentment because it's perfectly good grass and just work environments. It's also a hazard. Like it's as well as being a health hazard. It's just like it's a danger because you can also slip on it. And I'm carrying ladders. Luckily, I've never slipped on dog shit before, so that's good. But it is still a very present danger when going to an apartment complex and you're carrying around big, heavy ladders.
So it's a health hazard in addition to a safety hazard.
Yes.
And you've been attacked by a dog on the job before.
Yes. So what happened? So with that one, it was here in Washington. We had it was window cleaning at a residential place, and they had vicious, smaller dogs that they had to keep in the garage while we were doing stuff. And while we were wrapping things up, I remembered I forgot something in the back. so I went to go get it. But when I went to go grab it, they had let the dogs out, and the dogs came around and they were just barking and coming up to me, and I was like, oh, well, shoe. But then I felt one of them bite me in the back of my, on the back of my ankle.
Yeah.
And I was like, ow. So then I kind of went into defense mode, trying to just keep them away. Honestly, if I was in that same situation, I was not, like, that was actually before the turning point for us.
Yes.
When we came to dogs. So it's like now I have a lot more visceral hate and anger towards these things. So if like that happened again, I'd probably just step on it really hard or just kick it.
Yes, especially with those steel-toed shoes that I got you.
Yes, so that's like I was not as confrontational with animals because it just didn't know better at the time. But now I know better, and I know to attack animals when they attack me.
Dogs,
right. To attack mutants when they attack me.
There you go. I'm wondering if I should have brought up the attack a little sooner in the interview, because that's pretty important, but it was so long ago, and when you got attacked by a dog, it was within the same month when you moved to Washington State. So that was, like you said, knowing what you would know now, you would have kicked that mutt before it even nipped at you. Mm-hmm. You would see the warning signs, see that it's acting aggressive and barking at you, and then just kick it in the nose.
Yeah, or just act dominant around it. Just yell at it.
Yeah.
Pick it up and throw it around just to show. I mean, obviously, you can't do that with other people's.
Not with the client's dog.
And that's the unfortunate thing. It's like, I would be a lot more aggressive with these things, but when I'm on company time, it looks bad for the company, and also I can't do that to clients' stuff.
Has there ever been any other incident on the job where you've almost been attacked?
No, but there was one job I did, cleaning the windows and cleaning the inside, and they had a rescue pit bull. Oh. This thing was huge, and I was cleaning the windows, and this thing just came up and just like looked at me, and I was very uncomfortable working with that. But luckily, knowing better, I'm like, okay, well, I guess the best situation is, obviously the best situation to be in if a dog is getting near you is have a pressure washer.
Yes.
Because that thing's like essentially a gun. So that's handy. But with window cleaning, I at least have plenty of sharp implements or screwdrivers on me. So I have means of defending myself, and I can use my mop and squeegee as kind of a bite stick. So, but I wasn't I was looking forward to getting out of that house. And obviously it's with any dog. I don't really want to be inside the house, but particularly with pit bulls or bully breeds, I'm like, I really don't want to be in this house.
And that's the closest incident you've had, or?
I guess the second closest,
okay.
But nothing ever. I don't think I've encountered any situations where a dog was actively coming at me.
You've mentioned how your employers or your coworkers have accused you of hating animals because they know that you hate dogs. So what's your experience been like not being a dog nut around your coworkers? Do you feel like you're ostracized in some way?
No, because I don't care. And I don't mind just telling, if I need to tell them something, or, I look at the facts or the numbers and stuff regarding dog attacks, and I can just use that, and they'll just, they'll say whatever to just invalidate it, in their to themselves, or
Yes.
just basically to just play it down, whatever. It's like whatever, like I don't care.
Have they ever tried to persuade you into loving dogs, or like showed you pictures of their mutts?
No, and when they offer, I say no, thank you. So, but they take that as I don't like animals. I mean, you and I have had cats before.
Mm-hmm.
We had 3 of them even in a small living space. I don't know how we did that. And it's just being pet free. It definitely makes you just not really want to be around or just animals in general. I don't want to be around them. I don't hate animals.
Right.
And I don't dislike their presence, but it's just like, but if I see an animal, I'm fine with observing it from a distance. I don't need to be near it. I don't need to feed it to get it to come close to me because I don't want it close to me. But somehow, because I respect keeping my distance from nature in a way, because it's like it doesn't help, or it's not healthy to be interacting with nature like that, because they are filthy animals. But having that viewpoint people misconstrued that as animal hatred, which it's like, no, I don't hate them. I just don't want to be around them because they pollute my air.
That's a hard concept for a lot of people to understand, is not worshiping animals and not wanting to rub on them or not wanting to be in proximity equals animal hater. But your behavior does not come off in that way, because you don't talk about how much you hate animals. Not talking about dogs. Dogs are mutants. I want anyone listening in on that to be clear. We're not talking about dogs when we say animals. An animal like a cow. We've seen cows in fields, but we don't feel too inclined to go up to the cow and try and rub on it.
Yeah, we don't want to rub on it. I know some of our neighbors had goats,
Mm-hmm.
and they would come up to the fence. I don't think I don't think we ever pet them, but we would just look at them.
Yeah.
And that was fine. Like that's fine. I don't need to know what the animal feels like.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we can safely assume what the animal feels like.
Yes.
But it's also with that, people want the reaction from an animal petting. They want the animal to lean in or to have some sort of reaction to being touched.
They want to know that the animal accepts them in some way.
Yes.
And I certainly did feel like that at one point as in my younger years, because my neighbors had horses and I liked to pet them, or like I gave them carrots sometimes. Just because I appreciate their presence. Like I don't feel like this thing is going to get loose from the fence and try to rip my throat out.
Mm-hmm.
And they have gotten out before, but they pretty much called all the neighbors and said, like, the horses got loose, so everyone make sure your kids are inside. But they didn't get out regularly. You don't hear of horse maulings.
Yeah. And yeah, as a kid growing up, I'd feed animals and rub up against them and everything. It's like, yeah, it's just a kid, teenager, a young adult. Like, you just don't think about these things very much, but hopefully as you get older, you take an interest in hygiene and just sanitation. And as you do that, you slowly don't feel like interacting with these animals. Even, sometimes on jobs, I'll go into a house and they have a cat, and I may interact with the cat, but for the most part, I'm usually wearing gloves, and I try to make a minimal, or I mostly just make some sort of gesture to see if I can get the cat to meow, because I just think, like, the noises they make, it's like, yeah, it's cute, I get it.
But would you let the cat lean into your pant leg and get hair all over your
I
clothing.
wouldn't appreciate it, but I at least wouldn't be as offended to that if it was a dog.
Yeah, their waxy hair.
Yeah.
And I know that this conversation is probably gonna be upsetting a lot of people, but we're pro people. People first, as Animal in Control would say. So we take more of an interest in human beings than in animals. We don't have pets, but that doesn't mean that we think everyone who owns a pet is a filthy heathen.
No.
And we have friends that have dogs, and they're pretty respectful about it.
Yes, and I imagine if they had dogs and they were not respectful of it, they probably wouldn't be friends with them.
No. So we choose our friends very wisely, and we have not needed to run into an issue of somebody saying like, "Oh no, he's friendly."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah, animals are cool. Like, I like animals. I like learning about animals and everything, but I've come to recognize that keeping distance from animals is healthier and just more the air is just cleaner.
Yes.
In general. Obviously, I go for walks in the park and there are squirrels and stuff like that. I don't mind. It's a squirrel.
It's not going to attack you.
Yeah, it's not going to... And I couldn't tell you if I ran into squirrel shit. Like, I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's probably like rabbits and stuff like that. Just pellets. But I can clearly tell if a dog's been somewhere.
Yes.
Because the grass is usually dead or there's just shit there. And yeah, like you said, people first. When going for walks, if I see people walking their dogs, I have a negative feeling when I see that. But then I'll see someone walking with their little toddler or even older kids or just any age kids or strollers, and puts a smile on my face. It's just like, oh, so cute and so human.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a healthy reaction to see that sort of relationship between humans bonding. Like, I love that too. We don't have our kids. We want to foster teens when we're older, but we have a bunch of nieces and nephews, and I love it when we go for walks and we see families that are together and they don't have a mutt. Mm-hmm. So like parents and maybe they have a toddler and another baby. I appreciate seeing that, and I think it's wholesome and cute. But walking by and you see somebody that has their whatever age their child is and they're walking their dog and clearly paying more attention to the dog than their own child, it always makes me feel sick.
Yeah, or just people have the conception that the dog is there to protect all members of the family, but no.
Once somebody starts beating on their food dispenser, the dog books it. They're scared. They're like, shit, that thing is stronger than me and it's attacking my food dispenser. I need to get away from it. So they might yap at it, but you can intimidate a dog quite easily.
Yeah. So the main thing is to not show fear.
Yes. And that actually segues into that incident that you ran into where you were taking a walk around the park and there was a loose dog and you turned around to spray it and it ran away. Yeah, so let's hear that story.
Okay, yes. So rather than walk in the park, I was like, you know what? I'll walk in more of the city area. And as I was walking, some lady with an off-leash dog was walking by me, and I could tell, like, because of how I could understand what she was saying, like talking to the dog and just saying like, oh, where's your owner and stuff like that. So it's like I knew it wasn't the person's dog, and I walked by them, but maybe the dog like passed over me, and I'm just either try to keep my distance or like nudge the dog away. But then as I went past them and I turned to cross the street, I could see out of the corner of my eye that the dog was behind me, coming closer. So immediately as I turned around, I took out my pepper spray to spray it. But unfortunately, the dog backed off and ran as I was turning. So I didn't have an opportunity to mace it. But the person wasn't even the owner. Got really angry at me for trying that. Be like, why would you do that?
Who does that?
Who does that? And so, but when something like that comes up, I sprayed the dog, and I was like, okay, well, dog's gone, so I'm just turning around and walking, and then this person's just yelling at me, and I'm just ignoring them. At least my strategy with that is, if I do something is that I'm justified in doing, is to just not acknowledge the other person yelling at me.
That probably makes them even angrier.
Yes. So, and as I did some walking, like, you know what? I think I'll just walk by this park again, see if I'll run into that dog. And the dog, 2 other people apparently found it and were trying to help it or something. I'm like, huh. And it was like a small-ish dog, but it's like still, like, I don't want to take the risk of anything biting my ankles.
Yeah. It's off leash.
Yeah, and poses a threat. And as I was walking back, I could hear in my peripherals, I was able to pick up on this lady. It's like, and that's the guy over there. Loser. Just yelling loser at me. But I'm not looking around or anything. I'm just keep walking.
That's hilarious, because there are so many incidences where people have needed to shoot off-leash dogs that were about to attack them, and the person that was defending their family is explaining everything. And I'm thinking it's kind of fruitless, because no matter what you say to this pit nutter that is in hysterics, it's not going to make them feel better. So there's that other video of that police officer who shot the dog, and these people are screaming at him, and he doesn't say anything because he knows he's probably dealt with this before. So I think your technique of just not responding while these people are losing their shit is an excellent technique, because you know you're within your rights.
Yes, and it's like, if police come up or anything, I can just say, why is it not on a leash?
Why isn't it on a leash?
Yeah.
Yeah. They never ask that in these situations. You take a lot of walks, so you are probably more likely to run into a situation where you might be charged or feel threatened in any way. Have there ever been any other close calls with getting attacked from going on walks?
With walks, not so much. I haven't had any interaction. There's one person I run into every now and then with their stupid pit bull, and they often, like, they'll take it off leash, but they'll put it back on a leash at some point. But it's just the most likely situation I could run into in a park is most likely the dog is chasing a squirrel, and I'm just caught in the crossfire. But I'm aware of that, so I try to keep a lookout, especially if the dogs are chasing squirrels. But it's especially, so that person with the off-leash pit bull, it's like, if a pit bull or bully breed of any kind is off-leash, I'm usually a little more on guard.
Have you thought about calling animal control?
No, it's because most of the time the person will put the dog back on a leash. So
should be on a leash all the time, though.
Yeah, and the park says, like, all pets must be on all pets must be on a leash. It's like, what other pet are the people taking out? I see it once in a blue moon. I'll see someone walking their cat, or most of the time the cat's just in a carrier or on the person's shoulder.
you've never had incidences. I mean, off-leash cats can certainly pose a threat to wildlife, including squirrels, much like dogs do, but the level of safety or the amount of public safety that's being put at risk with a dog, especially a bully breed. Like, of course it's a bully breed. These micro-penised wannabe thugs have these bully breeds to overcompensate, and one day something's going to happen, and you might be there to step in.
I know. I keep my eyes peeled for anything or hearing noises.
Maybe something you can do is film the guy when he has his dog off leash, and we'll both have to be there because this is really something that does get complicated, and it shouldn't be. Calling animal control for an off leash dog and say that he has it off leash and it needs to be on leash at all times.
Yes, and then right down the walkway there are about 3 other people with their dogs off leash.
Yeah.
Playing fetch and everything. So it's...
Why doesn't animal control come and just write all of these people up?
It's there's no infrastructure for that, or there's no public interest in that kind of safety or degree of safety.
So sometime we'll have to just dedicate a day to calling animal control and getting these people reported. So I could even call them. You can call them. I can call them and say that we are seeing the same thing. And they're eventually going to have to respond to it. And you can say that you took video footage. You know what the laws are. And they are creating a public health risk because there are children present. You have an at-risk age group and an off-leash dog that is responsible for killing that age group of children more than any other breed. So imagine if everybody in that park was calling animal control.
Yeah, then it's just unfortunate the collective unconscious doesn't really see that. And I mean, obviously, you start getting into dangerous territory in America, and you start infringing on people's rights.
They're trying to take away our dogs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So people, America is mostly based in anarchy, so it's unfortunate because it's like, a little more systems in place or regulations in place for these sorts of things would probably be more beneficial for the community.
It's all about individualism, but without any accountability.
Yes.
So freedom and individualism at the cost of pretty much public safety.
Yes.
Well, I think that's a good point to take a bit of an intermission.
Okay.
So we'll be back shortly. All right, we're back. So going back to your parents, because a lot of people in the community can relate to the issue of being pretty much the only dog-aware person in their family, and everyone else in their family is filled with dog nuts. But both of us have been pretty lucky because no one in your family is a dog nut. Your grandparents don't own dogs. Your parents euthanized the family dog a couple years ago, and they were pretty, like, to my understanding, kind of relieved about that. Like, oh, finally, now we can travel and don't need to worry about a dog sitter. So that's a good sign.
They see the negative impact of dogs. Now they're not on the same level of like anti-pet, anti-animal, or like anti-dogs as you and I, but they have a healthy indifference to them. I feel. So, like with my dad, he liked the dog because it just gave him an excuse to go walking. Obviously, he doesn't need that now, but it's like he certainly liked the dog. I think Mom said it's just it's something that reminds him of me just growing up, because since I had the dog since I was like 12, there's a lot of memories associated with it, so understandable with that. But with his work, like he still does window cleaning, he still deals with dogs, and I've talked to him about it, and he's like he does find it very strange just how obsessed people are with their dog, like with their pets.
Yeah.
And so I think he can, when we talk to him about these sorts of things, he can understand it because he sees it as well. With my mom, I think she still likes animals, but she likes animals and dogs. I guess I haven't really seen a dog interact. She hasn't reacted negatively to a dog last time I've seen her. But what's funny about what she does is she actually runs a store that puts basically packages together for people's deceased pets. So people who need something to remember their pet by, she'll make a custom or decorated box just for their furry friend. And when talking to her about it, she says, yeah, it's really people are very into their pets, so that they both know, like they can both see like just how much, like, not just dog nuttery but just pet nuttery in general. But most of the time, the people who are getting these things are getting it for their dog, or they're acting. Usually people with this type of attitude are talking about their dog. It can happen with cats as well. So,
but dogs really get the strongest type of emotional reaction.
I guess so, yeah. So that's and I think I know it's not her intention, but it is interesting seeing that she actually makes a lot of money from people mourning over their pet. Like when you and I got rid, like, any pet of ours died, did we ever do anything for it?
I think I thought about it, just like maybe in passing, like, oh, should we do something to remember our cat by, and you immediately said no. And I'm like, you know what, that would be a little strange. So yeah, your mom is interesting. She's essentially making money off of other people's dead pets. So she's not really supporting the ownership of them, but more so celebrating the end of their existence.
Yes.
And one could argue.
Yes, but I don't think that's her intention.
Right.
That's just a way that's like, you know what, I support it because also feeds into or it validates the result we're going for.
Yes. It's nice not needing to ever worry about anyone bringing a dog into a family event.
Mm-hmm.
The only time that would really happen is if someone outside of the family tried to bring their dog, but we seem pretty well prepared to be able to handle a situation like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice to just go over to your parents' place, or even to like my mom's place or my dad's place, how we can walk in and we don't need to worry about a stupid mutt jumping on us. Or some of my siblings have cats, but I just am a little hesitant to eat food that cat owners have prepared.
It's really weird when you start learning about like the nature of shedding and just what that does. And when you think about it, just like, my windows aren't open constantly. So if your windows are open, then it's blowing air in, which is putting all this hair and dust airborne. And if you don't have the window open, then the hair and dust is settling.
Yeah, vacuuming, even after we got rid of our pets, and still finding their hair somewhere.
Yes. And just how like, everyone says animals are clean. It's like, no. They use the litter box, or they piss and shit.
They lick their anus all day.
Yeah, it's...
Humans don't do that all day.
Yeah, and then they lick their hair, and then they rub against you and rub against everything.
And then people will rub on them.
Yeah. And it's just... And they'll itch themselves and get a bunch of hair airborne. Like, okay, yes, people have done this, and, they live a long life regardless, but it's just that change in air, like just being aware of that. It's like the quality could have just been so much nicer.
Yes, and these people are somehow getting sick every year, and they don't understand why.
I guess yeah, you know what, that is true. We haven't really gotten sick.
No, especially after going pet free.
Yeah. And it is a bit easier to breathe.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm getting congested as much. And we had an air purifier when we had cats, and that helped a little bit, but ultimately getting rid of the source made our lives significantly more hygienic. So it's...
And I guess it helps for us because I guess hygiene is kind of a hobby of ours. Not to an excessive compulsive level.
Right.
It's like we're not just fine-tuning everything. It's just generally wash hands regularly.
And we're into grooming as well. And it's nice that we don't need to, neither of us eat shit, drink piss, and lick our bodies, so we don't need to worry about that dander. And we can be pretty well in control of any standard of hygiene. And one thing that we've been doing, I've mentioned this on one of IHD's streams, and he actually said this is a good idea, of using shoe slips. So we put on these shoe slips before getting into our car, so that way shoes that have touched the outside don't enter the car in any way. And same with our shoes indoors. We have a rug where only shoes are supposed to touch, and put shoe slips around those and then put them on shelving. So it might seem like it's ridiculously overly cleanly to some people, but honestly, when you walk outside and the first thing you see is dog shit on the pavement, it's not too unlikely to do stuff like this.
Yeah, it's nice being able to minimize interaction with dirt or filthy surfaces. And again, I don't feel like, to me, people in the comments can, say whether this is going too far, but I don't think the shoe slips are going too far. What seems like going too far for, to me, would be wearing gloves, not going outside without wearing a mask, gloves, and like a spray bottle.
Right.
Like needing to sanitize every doorknob
Yes.
as you go. Like, that seems a little... That would be excessive.
And we still wear our masks, but it's more so I like to wear my mask at work so that I don't get... I work around a lot of dust. So, and with the colder weather, it does kind of feel nice. Some people may say that's going too far, but yeah, like you said, wearing gloves or wearing like a hazmat suit and needing to clean everything, that might be going a bit
we're
too
not
far.
on our knees scrubbing the floor with a toothbrush,
No.
trying to sanitize every corner.
No. But we take reasonable precaution, and we carry hand sanitizer. So I feel like that's not inhibiting our daily life in any way.
Yeah, and especially imagining just being kids, as I'm sure many people can. It's just the idea of being outside, playing in dirt, rubbing against animals and everything, and then you go inside and you don't wash your hands.
And then eat something.
Yeah, it's just... It's like, that would explain why I might have gotten sick more often as a child.
Yeah, I feel like that too. And it could be because when you're growing, you're still building an immune system. But yeah, I've noticed that. I feel like I got sick way more often as a kid. And who knew not washing your hands regularly did that.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of branched off into a segment about hygiene overall.
Yes, I guess to counter or if someone made the argument that we're just being clean freaks or neat freaks.
Can ask them to take a swab of the bottom of their shoes and take it to a lab and see what the results turn out. What kind of diseases they've been stepping in.
Yes. It also feeds into my job as well. One thing about working in apartments is you get to see how other people or people's apartments, people's houses, you get to see how other people have their place, and it just looks often kind of dirty, especially like the apartment place. It's like a goal is seeing all these other apartments is to make our apartment nicer, which still needs some work. It's a little better organizing, but at least in general, there's no soda cans or just bags, fast food bags or whatever
that are being tied up and tossed in a corner.
Yeah.
Even though the interview wasn't really about pets, I'm glad that we did talk about this, because any trolls that get on the channel say that I'm just a cat lover, or their response is like, haha, I didn't even watch this video, cats hate us and dogs are amazing. Like, I didn't mention cats in any way. And I've been pressured before to make a video about cats, and I'm not going to do that because that's not what this channel is about. And I also don't want to alienate anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But we're overall, in addition to being anti-dog, anti-pet, meaning that we personally are not going to own pets, but I don't have a problem with any of our friends that own cats.
Mm-hmm.
Just as long as they don't try to push that onto us, there's no problem.
Yeah.
Much like there's this person on the channel, I can't remember their username, but it was in response to this screenshot that I took of this dog nut that was, saying dog nut stuff that they normally do. And this person commented and said that they like dogs, but at no point would they ever put a dog before a human, and it actually sickens them that dog nuts, they actually use that word, a dog nut, do that. So those types of people, if people like dogs as a hobby, there would be no problem. But the thing is that it's only dogs that are pushed onto us in this way. So that's really the reason why I have a whole channel dedicated to specifically dog awareness or anti-dog content, because I am, even though we're both anti-pet, it's just like I feel like this issue is something that is extremely inescapable. So there's all I have to say about cats in that regard.
Yeah, and you know what? If people if we go to a place and they have a cat, I'll pet it. If I go to a store, like an old bookstore, and there's a cat, I may just pat its head.
Yeah.
It's like it's a good time. It's a good chance to let loose, but I just don't feel that same way with dogs. They're too waxy.
Yeah.
It's like it's.
They're not really receptive either.
No.
They look the other way when you pet them.
Yeah.
But I'm sure after you pet the cat, you would probably immediately use hand sanitizer.
I'd sanitize my hand.
Yeah.
So I'm not immune to the charm of an animal interacting with how a house animal or a cat, but I'm not. Just don't feel a need to bring that home.
No.
Or I don't need to experience that regularly. It's like I'm fine just once in a blue moon encountering something.
Yeah. And then not ever needing to bring any additional filth into the house.
Yeah, it's essentially like wanting to have a petting zoo in your house. I don't recall having much puppy experiences. Like, I don't recall people with their new puppy rather than my own dog.
I remember one of our neighbors had huskies and had recently given birth to the puppies, and they actually let us go in and play with the puppies, which is extremely dangerous. I never realized how dangerous that situation really was.
Mm-hmm.
Being unknowingly putting yourself in danger in these situations. And I grew up with dogs. I'm pretty sure we had the black lab since it was a puppy, and I never really felt like I was at risk. So I could totally say that because of my personal anecdote of not getting attacked by the big dog that we lived around. I could say that dogs are not a problem, but no, I'm more so just livid at the fact that I didn't get my face ripped off.
Yeah. And puppies grow up quickly.
They do. So there's kind of like a danger of the puppy stage because if you fall for puppy dog eyes, it's like they're small, they're cute, and you think they're going to be like that forever. But give it 6 months and it's going to be a full-grown German Shepherd, and it's a burden because large dogs and dogs in general are just destructive.
Mm-hmm. When I see big dogs, I don't like them because they're dangerous. Like, they definitely pose a danger, as any dog does, but especially with bigger dogs. But with smaller dogs, especially like the Chihuahuas are just smaller dogs, I more so just feel sorry for them because they do not look happy. Like, sure, they react like they're doing the whole like excited, shaking, panting, tail wagging, which could mean anything, but it's like they're doing that, and it's like, yeah, but I don't think they would actively be happy to know they were born that way.
Yes.
So I guess I look more so at smaller dogs as animal cruelty.
Yeah, for sure. Especially like pugs.
Yeah, or Chihuahuas.
Yeah.
Born paranoid.
Shaking.
And feeble.
Those are the real animal abusers out there.
Yes.
Pug breeders and Chihuahua breeders.
Corgis, things like that. German Shepherds, even.
Yeah,
they've been messed up.
The back legs are fucked up so they can trot and prance around in dog shows.
Because apparently it looks better. I don't know who decided that.
Right.
But it's like, that's a very weird. I guess that's essentially just saying, it's like, foot binding is cool.
Or like, these deformities are cool, so let's breed other people with these painful deformities.
Yes.
Same with floppy ears. I tried to do some research into why dogs have floppy ears, and they said it's from selective breeding. It's like, well, why? Why were they selectively bred for floppy ears? And after enough digging, it was concluded that it's just because it looked more appealing to people.
Mm-hmm. So, if you give people pets, they'll eventually mutate it into the things from Wrong Turn.
Yes, just inbreed abominations. One thing that consistently gets brought up, mostly from trolls of the channel, are the animal videos of dogs getting killed by other animals or getting shot, and everyone says that we're encouraging dog abuse, but how would you explain that to somebody?
It's nature, I guess. It's nature on nature. If it was a human, it's like, okay, well, no, the human has more value, like infinitely more value than whatever is attacking it.
Yes.
It makes sense if it was a human being attacked, but with a dog, it's like, well, it's an animal, and it's...
But they're family members to some people.
It contributes as much as people want to put on it, because objectively, pets don't serve a community. The usefulness for dogs is long gone.
They've outlived any usefulness they
Yeah, it's
had.
like they had a purpose in history, and they did it as best as people with dogs could at the time.
Within the limits of their confines.
Yeah, but now dogs don't have any real actual function other than the small minority of them that are actual service dogs, and even then those can be replaced by something else, or even with technology, or just a cane,
Or human assistance, even.
other than that small minority that actually need a service dog. Any use is small, because alarm systems, like, it seems like everyone has a camera and security system at their house, which is nice. I like seeing that. I mean, I'm not going to commit crimes, but seeing that, I definitely don't feel like committing any.
Yeah.
So I feel... And people like dogs because they act as a security system. It's like, technology can replace them. You know what's better than a dog barking? Maybe an alarm on your windows and doors.
That automatically calls the police to that location.
Yeah, so it's like, and people think like, oh, but that's expensive. It's like, it'd probably be equal, if not less than, what you would pay for a dog every year or every month. The security system doesn't need shots. You don't need to take it out every couple hours to let it empty its oil or something onto the lawn,
Yes.
which will kill it. They can even talk, so you can, set to say hello to you. Be like, I love you.
And you don't need to get a house sitter to watch over the security system. Like, that's kind of what the security system is for.
It can take care of itself.
Yes, it takes care of itself. That's exactly it. But with a dog, you need to take care of it. And it's been proven time and time again that security dogs are worthless, because a robber will feed the dog before breaking in, and then feed it while it's breaking in, and the dog won't do anything. You can't do that with an alarm system, though. So it's much like with horses. Horses have outlived all the usefulness that they may have had in the past.
It's true. It's only for hobby or whatever sport people like to use horses in. Oh wait, horse racing.
Yes, self-fulfillment and exploitation.
Yes. So I get that's another aspect of pet ownership I just don't like feeding into. It doesn't feel right keeping an animal inside this confined space, even if it's allowed outside. Like, you're making it dependent on you, or I don't know, it's especially in an indoor pet like a cat, doesn't feel right keeping it. Just, it only knows this one room.
Yeah, animals were not meant to be confined. And somebody might say that with that logic, then meat should not be legal, but that's completely different than owning a pet.
Yeah, I guess in relation to meat, I guess you could technically just raise it as livestock, but we don't.
Yeah, and animals that are in similar conditions in slaughterhouses, that serves a purpose, though. Now, I think that meat production should be cut way, way back. But I don't think everybody was born to be vegan, and that's one of the things that irritates me about some vegans is they look down on me because I eat meat and dairy, but they don't understand all of the different fruits and vegetables I'm allergic to. And the fact that I'm already having trouble trying to gain weight, it's not an option for everybody, but an animal that is caged and slaughtered for food is completely different than somebody who has a pet for selfish reasons or tries to make an excuse for trapping a pet in their home.
Because the pet isn't providing anything objective other than like whatever emotion or value people want to put into it.
Right. And after living pet free, I think we can both say with confidence that we did not need a pet to feel fulfilled with our life.
Yes. I mean, the same could be said with video games or binging a show, that we don't need it, technically, and we only have it for entertainment. Some people could just have a pet for the entertainment, but much like the security system, we don't need to take our Netflix subscription or our phones out to leak acid onto the lawn.
Yeah. What's nice about watching TV shows or playing video games is that it in no way affects the well-being of other people, unless we are blasting it, but it doesn't create dander. It doesn't produce shit or piss. We don't need to bring it with us everywhere we go. We don't need to get a house sitter to watch over our PlayStation. It doesn't. Yeah, you don't need to take it out.
It's not as confining as a pet is.
It's not a living creature.
No. There's still the matter of paying electricity and everything on it, but as far as just not... It gets back into hygiene. It's just a certain level of hygiene.
Yes. And how much time are you going to dedicate to it?
Yeah. But at least our Netflix subscription, not that we don't actually have one,
right.
That's just the only thing that's coming to mind. Our Netflix subscription isn't going to attack someone if they come in the door. Our video games aren't going to attack people that come in the door unpronounced or emit a bunch of stuff into the air that someone could be allergic to.
The characters in the video game aren't going to pop out of their screen if we leave the TV on and go use the bathroom.
Yes.
So they don't produce a public health hazard or a public safety hazard. Kind of getting off topic again.
Well, it's covering a lot of niche grounds.
Yes.
So it's if people wanted whatever context, or if people want to just hear it from all angles, it's kind of that.
Yes, that's a good way to explain it. All these different things, and I think it's also helping dismantle any type of argument that is riddled with fallacies that dog nuts use. So
yeah, so this is it's going into a lot of specific counter arguments to people saying these things about like
cars are dangerous too. Are you going to ban cars? Well, that would be an awesome argument if cars were capable of driving on their own accord.
Yes, so it's separating the difference between other things that are not beneficial to the community, like video games or TV and stuff. It's like that is still a danger to like many people and danger to people's lives, things like that, but it is not of itself actively posing a threat to people.
It doesn't have a mind of its own.
Yeah. Whereas dogs do have a mind of their own. It's like they have instincts and prey drives.
Video games don't have a prey drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way of seeing it. So anybody that's listening in on this casually can kind of prepare counter arguments to anything that dog nuts might try to present.
So it's nice, and it's nice having this conversation as well because it's dimensionalizing a lot of the my own views on it, so it's helping clarify a lot of reasons why I don't like dogs, and I don't like pet ownership in general, and why it poses its specific threat as opposed to other dangers.
Yes, definitely, because you'll definitely run into those people that will make you question your sanity. After listening back on this, I'm sure you'll be able to say to yourself, like, no, those are good reasons.
Yeah. And on another level, it's needing to kind of hear these things out, and just because some people, their counter argument may just be indifference. So they could just say, well, to each their own, which is obviously, we can also say that to a lot of, probably say that to a lot of things other people believe or are passionate about.
Yes.
So it's need to get into specifics to kind of see like why this is a bit more serious of a to each their own.
Yes.
It's like saying like,
Yes.
I like shooting guns haphazardly. It's like, well, to each their own. It's like, no, that's a serious risk.
Yeah.
To people.
So it's like they try to play down dog attacks. Like, how are you going to play down 4.7 million dog attacks every year in the U.S. alone?
Yes.
That's serious.
And hundreds, if not thousands, of surgeries that need to go on. 27,000
reconstructive surgeries each year.
Dang. Yeah. So those are, even just going by the numbers, it's dangerous to the human life.
And a huge threat to public safety. And somebody may counter that. They might say, 30 to 50 people killed every year by dogs. That's not too many. But imagine if it was a serial killer, and IHD has mentioned this. What if it was a serial killer killing 30 to 50 people every year? Would they say, that's not too many, we don't need to catch him?
Yeah.
But
that's
no,
a good one.
Yeah, it's only with dogs that can get away with these types of numbers. Or they'll say like, other humans are attacking way more people than dogs. It's like, no, they're not actually. You're way more likely to get attacked by a dog than shot by a human being in the United States. And actually at least with people, they face the consequences for their actions. But if a dog attacks someone, they don't face the consequences for their action. Because there are those groups of people that try to save dogs from being euthanized after they have either attacked and or killed a child. These people are nuts. I'm livid at that. So that's another good counter argument. They say that humans kill way more people than this, but getting rid of humans is not an option. They facilitate your existence.
Yeah.
Dogs don't. 98% of people that own dogs don't need them. They're just for pleasure.
Yes. And it definitely requires a level of self-awareness to just see in your own life where it's like, okay, where is how could my hobby be negatively affecting other people?
Yes.
So it's need to take account of taking that into account. And like with what the stuff we do, I try to think of ways like, is this could this possibly bother someone else? I'm like, I don't think so. The worst I can kind of think of is just when I'm going for walks and I'm just not by a trash can, so I have to spit something up. It's like, I kind of don't like spitting on the ground because that might be, wouldn't want someone to step on that.
Mm-hmm.
Or something.
Or like chewing bubble gum.
Yeah. So it's trying to have as much positive impact and as little negative impact.
And some people just aren't really concerned about how their obsession affects other people. And that's really where we run into the issues that we do ultimately.
Yes. Same with driving, people who like to drive fast cars. Like, that's it's a bit of a danger to people around you.
Yes.
And it's also a lot like noise pollution.
Yes.
Much like people blast their bass.
Oh my gosh.
Way too high. It's like that's a personal interest that is affecting people negatively.
Yes.
In the near vicinity.
People can have all these hobbies they want, but when it starts to interfere with the well-being of other people, like with service dogs, that's where we run into the problems. So it's overall just a lack of consideration for others that is perpetuating all the problems that we have within dog worship.
And yeah, specifically dogs, it's with for the most part just covering all the bases here, that with cats, it usually isn't affecting anything other than in the apartment itself. Or unless it's playing with like a toy, is it making noise and bothering people? But with a dog, it barks, you have to bring it outside. Like you can't have you can have an indoor dog, but that sounds like the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, it's cruel too.
Yeah.
Because German Shepherds in these one-bedroom apartments, that's animal cruelty in its own way. But off-leash cats, or cats that are free-roaming, they certainly pose their own threat, or like they'll dig into people's gardens and shit in their dirt. So it's like, keep your cats inside. Simple.
Yes, so off-leash cats can serve a similar can have a negative impact as well. But compared to dogs, which I don't know, what are the statistics for cat attacks and cat maulings and facial reconstruction caused by cats? I'm sure it happens.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it happens that, yes, people probably do need to get surgery because of a really bad cat interaction. Like, that certainly can happen, but just going by the numbers, the number of dogs that cause that is very concerning.
Yes, it's
of much more concern.
It requires priority. So as much as we're on board with just the elimination of pets overall, we need to prioritize things. We need to take things a step at a time. So even within getting rid of dogs, it would be like, it's actually exactly like with bully breeds. So the ADEP people, ADEP is all dogs except pit bulls. So dog lovers that hate pit bulls, pretty much, they might make that same argument that we're making, but it's ultimately a term of priorities. So what is causing the most significant damage, and what can we do to reduce all damage? But it needs to be systematic.
What would be an equivalent of that if someone these various Apple companies, like, they at some point they do cause people to get sick or something, but if there's one that's causing 66% of the people to get sick, then you should probably prioritize that one company.
Yeah. So it's, with something like that, I feel like they would just do a total recall of a product like that. And
so can we recall pit bulls?
Yes, we can, but nobody wants to. So it's like, that's a great topic to bring up, the idea that if a toy injures a couple children, or if it kills one child,
yes,
that toy gets pulled off the shelves and it's banned. But dogs kill, what is it, 10 to 20 kids every year, just kids.
Mm-hmm.
Pit bulls don't get recalled. They're not labeled as dangerous. They don't have a warning label on them. So it's just insane, all of these double standards.
Yeah.
And you can bring that up in any type of formal debate with any dog defender or pit defender is, why did these toys get banned then? Oh, it was only three children that were killed by lawn darts. It's not that many. It was all in how you raised them. The kids just didn't know how to play with the lawn darts, and that's why they got killed. It's not because the lawn darts are dangerous. So, sometimes it's good to, like, systematically debunk their arguments, like what Nikola Tesla does, or sometimes it's fun to just use their own logic against them.
I guess it plays into a lot of just ethics, economics, or stuff like that. Looking at how things affect the whole, because are there other things that are increased, like the increase of cases of anxiety and depression in people? It's like, obviously there are things causing that, and those things should be addressed as well. So it's like, but there needs to be, like, especially with something like dogs, it's just active threats. Like, anxiety and depression is one thing when it's something man-made causing it. So there are things you can do to counteract that, but it's like with a dog, there's a lot more unpredictability with it.
Yes.
And it's, especially if you're around them, you have to you're playing Russian roulette when you don't want to be, where these people are people with bully breeds compensating or something like that, just like dangerous dogs. It's like, I've been playing Russian roulette for 10 years and haven't lost a single game. Like, it's great you're winning, but why are you playing this?
Yeah.
Why do you feel the need to be playing this game?
Why do you feel the need to put other people and your children at risk? So it's like anxiety and depression, yeah, those are serious things. But anxiety and depression only affects that person. Might affect their workplace or their family, but at least this person with anxiety or depression is not going to go around shooting every person they see.
Mm-hmm.
It really only does affect them, or they're not going to pollute the air that, I mean, yeah, I guess you could argue they would pollute the air if they don't shower and then go walking around, but at least it's not acceptable to do that.
Mm-hmm.
With dogs being brought into stores, it's seen as acceptable now.
This issue stands out compared to other issues.
Yes.
And obviously people focused on dogs, it's great. And if, like, someone more focused on helping people with depression, contributing to just the betterment of society and the world in general, trying to contribute to something.
Yeah, definitely. And some people might say that we're just out here because we want to take people's pets away, but I think more so our goal in the movement is to make it so that people become educated about the dogs, and so that dog ownership falls out of favor.
Yes. And I'll just say this, and I'm not trying to draw any sort of, like, similar parallels, but it's like forced child labor should not be allowed. It's just trying to pave the way to just making people aware that should probably not be doing this. Smoking.
Yes.
Smoking indoors or in public areas is not allowed.
Some people can't even go to their mailbox without being threatened by dogs.
Oh, yes, or postmen can't go to the mailbox without being threatened by dogs.
Yeah, postman, that's a good one too, because just recently there was this elderly woman, postal carrier, that was killed by dogs. And it raised a pretty big question of how seriously are we going to take this threat that dogs pose to postal workers or mail carriers. Because it was just a huge shock to the community. Imagine doing your job and then getting mauled by a dog, and, like, she was an old woman. She didn't stand a chance. So I'm glad you don't have to deal with that level of threat and security.
Yeah.
But yeah, of all these issues, yeah, we could be talking about world hunger or war, and, well, it's not to downplay any of that. There are already groups of people and advocacy groups to address those things, but let's see a show of hands with who's concerned about public safety in regards to dogs. The fact that children are not safe to play in their own yards anymore. Children have been killed in their own yards for doing nothing because the neighbor's dog is off leash. That's not okay. That's a serious deal, and I don't hear anyone else talking about it. So that's the response that I would have to anybody that would try to dissuade and say that there are more important things we need to be talking about. Well, tell me what else is threatening children that are playing in their own yards. What is threatening public safety to this degree? So while I am concerned about child labor, forced child labor, and world hunger, that's irrelevant to the issue of dogs.
So just trying to do our part.
Yes. And we know that we're at least not contributing to other problems.
It's not even towards it's not towards like the abuse of animals or anything. It's not advocating for any abuse. It's just advocating for these things are a public safety hazard.
Yes. A domestic terrorist that's unlike anything else.
Yeah. It's just something that's not regulated in any way.
Yes. Zero oversight on the ownership of lethal predators. Yet, it's, people still get away with owning tigers and these big cats, and then it gets loose, and then it kills their owner.
And then people go, well, what did you expect? But yet they can't equate the same to, like, oh, I got a 200-pound pit bull.
And it killed my sleeping infant. How could this happen?
It's like, what did you expect?
But I raised it with love.
And it's just frustrating that there will be more people sympathizing and trying to take this person's side for the dog's sake, and not, like, if a tiger did the same thing, it's like, what do people want? Like, no, kill the tiger and fuck the person who bought the tiger.
So irresponsible.
Yeah. So it's just an unfortunate level of like risk to safety. I guess that's with buying anything like that sentient.
Yes.
Or
it has a mind of its own.
Yeah,
and it has a prey drive. There's nothing more dangerous than something with a prey drive that has a mind of its own.
Yeah. So getting maybe one day we'll get to the AI, like run into the same situation with AI.
Yes.
At least, I guess, at least for now, the robots aren't malicious or have just gonna kill us when we're not looking.
Yes. All right, well, I think that is a good stopping point for now. We talked about a lot of stuff. We discussed a wide range of topics, but it did find its way relating to dogs in some way. So, is there anything that you would say to anyone who finds this video and tries to shame you for being a part of this space?
At the end of the day, it's something that's putting people first and taking an interest in the people who are negatively affected by it. And that's just my personal safety issue I want to focus on. I'm not advocating for just blatantly yelling at people who own dogs. Like, don't just randomly get into arguments with people who have dogs unless they provoke it or do something to provoke you. So it's...
Don't go around looking for trouble.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
Even for if it's for a good cause, don't go looking for trouble.
That's good advice. All right. Well, thanks for being on here.
Thanks for having me.